Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey? I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from the Commune of Ohana Hale, and we're at chapter 6. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado. After that first night together, Alejandro Varela and Kaiulani Lunalilo were almost inseparable. Following his wife's death, Alejandro had thought his heart was dead too, until Kaiulani had come into his life and woken it up with her wonderfully simple self. She hadn't even been trying, and that was what had made it all work so well, probably. Their love just came naturally, as inescapable and inevitable as the sun rising in the morning. Alejandro's mother, Nina, definitely approved of his new relationship. Shortly after it began, Kaiulani had invited her new lover's mother over for lunch, and afterwards they sat down to have a proper talk. Nina really appreciated the consideration and respect Kaiulani showed her by doing this. It boded well for the future. Alejandro was Nina's only child, and she'd been almost as devastated by the loss of his wife as he had been. But Nina could tell that meeting Kaiulani had really changed things for him. It was a blissful interlude for the young couple. Kaiulani was falling in love for the first time in her life, and Alejandro was able to heal and reawaken his heart. They had rushed into things together at first, but now that that overwhelming passion had faded a little, they were able to relax and get to know each other better. Alejandro living at the commune made things easy too, as there was always someone to look after his infant son Angelo, while he and Kaiulani spent their time together. It was the first time in a long time that Alejandro felt truly whole and happy. It had been so hard for him since his wife had passed away, but things were on the mend at last. Nina loved seeing her son finally coming out of his shell of grief and becoming involved in community matters. The commune of Ohana Hale was small and tight-knit, and after all that drama with Sunflower, things were finally calming down and getting back to normal. Normal, for Ohana Hale, was a lot of simplicity and togetherness. Founder Lucas, his partner Nina, as well as her son Alejandro, all worked various jobs, as did Floria's husband Jaquan, albeit only part-time, while young Aliana went to school. But they all spent their afternoons, evenings, and weekends together as a makeshift family, as much as possible. 12-year-old Aliana was flourishing with so many caretakers to love and support her. Aliana Levesque was the daughter of Floria and Jaquan. She had actually been born on Ohana Hale though, and so everyone in the community sort of shared her care. Her parents were only young when they had her, and although she was very much treasured, she had definitely not been a planned baby. Her parents still had trouble disciplining her, and it wasn't ever easy for them to get her to do her homework. Halayana was a child of the ocean and always had an argument mustered as to why she should get to go swimming with her dad instead of studying. For Jaquan was a mermaid, and Aliana just loved following him into the ocean. There was no way to know for sure yet whether or not she was a mermaid too. There was a 50-50 chance she had inherited her dad's aquatic DNA, and her fins would only grow in once she turned into a teenager. But oh, she hoped so. She felt such a deep affinity for and connection to the ocean. Surely she wouldn't feel like that if she were not part fish too. Floria wasn't sure if she wanted her daughter to be a mermaid. Of course, she was fully supportive of Jaquan and who he was. She had fallen in love with him, hadn't she? But she loved her little girl, her little human girl. If Aliana grew into a mermaid, she would become inherently different from every other sim. Not everyone was as willing to marry the mermaid as she had been. Sometimes they faced discrimination. And Floria didn't want that for Aliana. She just wanted her daughter to be normal. Floria also loved to fish. Fishing was a huge part of the traditional Sudanese island life Floria had grown up in. But already Aliana wouldn't eat it. She feigned sickness at the very thought. And Floria was beginning to feel a bit left out. She knew in her head that it was all genetic, and if Aliana was going to be a mermaid, she technically already was one, and there wasn't much they could do about it. But she still didn't want to be the only human in the family. Jaquan just wanted his daughter to be happy and safe and healthy. She was so attuned to the ocean's waves and spirit that in his heart he knew that she was almost certainly going to start growing fins soon. But if she didn't, and turned out to just be a normal sim, well, he didn't care. Aliana was such a bright and beautiful soul, and if it came to be that she wasn't a born mermaid, he was sure that she would still find some other way to become a part of the ocean one day. He hadn't told her, or Floria, about mermaidic kelp yet, but he couldn't deny that he had definitely thought about trying to find some. The summer she turned 13, Aliana Levesque spent more time in the ocean than she did on land. She had the idea that maybe if she just swam often enough, that it could maybe change who she was, help convince her body that she should be a mermaid and grow fins. Every morning she got up and excitedly checked between her toes, hoping that somehow overnight they'd have suddenly grown the webbing her father had between his own toes. Everyone on Ohana Hale knew of Aliana's hopes and dreams for the future. Even founder Lucas Pointer. He was kind of like a surrogate grandfather to the little girl, who had grown up in the ecological paradise Lucas and his friends had fought to purchase and protect. He argued with Ali that no amount of water she swam in would change anything. Bodies didn't work like that, and that, mermaid or not, she should look more towards what conservation of the ocean she could achieve on land with her human self, like he did. Lucas had come to Solani when he was 27 years old and fallen in love with the place. When he had arrived, the islands were untouched by the modern world, and he was able to purchase a small island for peanuts. But within just a few years of purchasing his land, the rest of the islands were swarming with development, tourism, and pollution. He had since been offered millions of dollars for his island, but he had resisted the pull of greed and instead devoted himself to protecting his home. Through decades of devoted conservationism and careful research, Lucas Pointer and his co-workers at the Department of Sudanese Protection were able to identify several endangered species that called Sulani's unique ecosystem home. And these discoveries had finally led to the implementation of protective legislation. That legislation had slowly allowed Sulani to grow back to some of its former glory. But the battle was far from over. In fact, it would go on forever. But Lucas didn't have forever, and he didn't have any children of his own, as he had found love far too late in life for that. Until he had met Nina Varela, he had only ever shared fleeting moments of pleasure with various women over the years, and although they had certainly been enjoyable, he had had nothing substantial with anyone of substance. Nina had changed all that. In her, he saw someone he could have had a life with, someone he wanted a life with now. He had pursued her, convinced her, and won her heart, and he was overwhelmingly happy with her. But at their age, they were obviously never going to be able to have children of their own. Of course, Nina hadn't missed out on all that. Her son Alejandro had a son of his own, Angelo, but they were moving in with Kaiulani now that they were engaged, and Kaiulani already owned her home. It was obvious to both Nina and Lucas that the young couple wanted to build their own individual life and story away from and separate to that of Ohana Hale. Nina was a little sad. She would miss having her boys so close at hand. But she was delighted for her son and welcomed her new daughter-in-law-to-be with open arms. Alejandro's move did leave Ohana Hale quite low on members though, as well as without any real plan for the future of the commune. But Lucas had had an idea. He proposed that the property, which was currently in his name, be left to young Aliana, with her parents as trustees, if he passed on before she reached adulthood. She had grown up there, spent her whole life being raised by all of them, and she was as close to a child or grandchild as Lucas would ever have. Lucas was excited to tell Aliana the news. She was only young, but he knew she was more than intelligent enough to grasp the long-term ramifications of his decision to leave her Ohana Hale when he died. It was an expression of both his love for and faith in her, that he would even consider leaving his property to her. Lucas knew it was a lot of responsibility for someone so young to have thrust upon her shoulders, but he believed in Aliana with all his heart. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 6 of the Commune of Ohana Hale. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye!